by the right index.
Yeah.
Cool. Back on the camera. Let's see. Holy shit, Jeff. What happened?
Um,
What did I do?
that is a very surprising outcome. Welcome back, Dom.
Welcome back, Jeff. It's nice to be back.
Yeah. Yeah. Had 3 streams off. I can't even remember what it was like to work on this project.
Yeah, it's strange. We'll have to get back into it. I know that we broke our entire game the
Mhm.
last 2 weeks beforehand, and now all we can do is drive a tank through walls. But you know what? It's fine. It's
Before
great.
before we get back into too much business, what video games did you play while you were out?
I've been playing Alan Wake.
Was this a control inspired decision there?
Yeah, I like remembered playing it on my roommate's 360 when it came out, living in Pittsburgh right after college. And I remember really loving it. And then like there was this Control DLC coming out, and I really love Control. And I was like, I should play this game that they made a DLC about before playing what is ostensibly the sequel.
Wait, so tell me about Alan Wake itself. How related to Control is it, and both in terms of storyline and gameplay?
So far, I mean, zero, kind of. I really like Alan Wake. It's like they made a Twin Peaks pastiche. It's like a Twin Peaks X-Files, like strange Stephen King crossover where you play like a writer who has accidentally written a book that is coming true in the fake Twin Peaks town you're living in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
it's delightful, and it
Uh-huh.
has so many strange, weird references that it was a very good piece of video game art.
Nice.
But I think what they've done is they've retconned it into Control as like an incident that the Bureau of Control was like, oh, that's weird. We should go look at that.
Oh, so they actually okay. So they're actually trying to unify the two
Yeah,
things. Oh,
yeah, yeah. So now they're like, just this random thing is now part of that cinematic universe.
yeah. I should try to play Control again. I have it. I got it on discount on PS4, and I enjoyed it. I think I hit the nausea thing for some reason. I think
Mm.
it's just the enclosed spaces. But it felt samey to me, even in the first like couple hours. Because I was just like in corridors the entire time, you know.
Did you like manage to get any power
Yeah,
ups?
I did get
Okay.
the pull power and everything.
Yeah,
The pull and the throw.
it is kind of samey because it like I don't know, it really leans into this sort of like brutalist architecture thing, right?
Yeah,
And like it goes all the way in, but
yeah.
it's pretty cool. Yeah. They added difficulty levels recently so you can make it less impossibly hard to survive as well. Because I remember it being a very hard game at parts.
Yeah, nice. Um, cool. I was playing. I've been playing a game called Remnant from the Ashes, um, which is a little.
I've heard about that.
It was free on Epic like midsummer, so you probably own it.
I bet I do.
Are you someone who like religiously goes to the Epic Game Store and gets the free games like every time they come out?
Uh yeah, I would say not religiously, but like I have like something emails me. I'm just like, I'll get a free game today, sure.
You know, it's funny. I bet the people who are like input your birthday to view this got tired of receiving like people who were born January 1st, 1900, you know. And so they just decided to convert all those prompts to just like, are you over the age of 18? Yes or no.
Yep.
So this game
Oh.
is basically they call it Dark Soulsy. I see where they're going for, but with like a Destiny kind of like overlay. So it's like loot shootery, co-op.
Oh shit, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly rad. I wasn't sure
Oh
what to expect
shit.
from it, and it seemed like it was like kind of just combining too many good things at once, and I didn't think that they could execute it properly. But it's been really fun. I've been playing with my brother-in-law and my brother, like for like
Nice.
90 minutes a night. It's been really good. Good
Is it
snack.
a Is it a so like Destiny is like a 3-person fire team kind of thing?
Yes, with guns. But then like the bosses where you die like 50 million times in a row, and it's really
All
funny.
right. It's a weird. It's weird to imagine Dark Souls as like a party game like that, but I like it.
It is, but they've filed off all of the rough edges of the Souls formula. So the checkpoints are always right before the bosses, or at least so far I've played it. There's no like long corridor of like this gauntlet of horrible enemies that you have to run through in between
That's
the
great.
campfire and the boss, right?
Yeah, I really want. I like enjoy Dark Souls conceptually, but like the active play in it is a very frustrating experience.
You were into Bloodborne there, right?
I fucking loved Bloodborne actually. Yeah, and I managed to like eke my way through that one.
Yeah. I got through about 70% of Bloodborne, came out of it sweating, and I was like, okay, I think that's about as much as I can handle right now. But I watched like someone speedrun it the other day. Like people can speedrun that game in like 30 minutes.
What?
Um, and it reminded me after having played like Remnant from the Ashes, like the degree of polish that went into Bloodborne is unbelievable.
It's significantly more so than Dark Souls. Maybe because they like didn't have to keep all the same patterns. They got to like polish the ones that were funky.
Yeah,
It was great though. Yeah.
phenomenal. Yeah. Um, so the direct opposite of Dark Souls or Bloodborne is the game sitting right before us.
Until you die.
And
When you
that
die,
is true.
yeah.
The outcome is the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think last. Oh, you're just gonna set it. Yes.
Just bringing it on.
Nice. It feels like last stream we were totally preoccupied with performance related stuff. Right. We had separated like client and server updates. It was really slow because we were copying a bunch of objects. Spent a whole stream optimizing it, or at least throwing in like an FPS indicator to help with the optimization. And now, actually, our FPS is looking pretty good. Your computer is faster than mine. Although I'm surprised that it's running at 30.
Me too. I was gonna point that out. Yeah, it's extremely weird that. Oh no! What? There we go. What zoom level does it think I have? My computer, well, Safari specifically, will not render more than 30 with request animation frame. So I was going to try this on Chrome live and see if we actually got a difference.
Oh my god, we're doing it live.
Doing it live. Okay.
That is interesting. What was it not 60 on Firefox when I was running it?
I mean, let's do them all at once.
All right.
Because yeah, I was very confused. I booted up and I didn't get the same frame rate.
Weird. Maybe it was 30 on my computer. I just don't remember. It felt. I thought it was 60. It was definitely 60, right? Because we blew it up and everything. I don't know. Well, at the very least, we spent a lot of time studying the FPS for the update. Maybe not the render, and we just like the render FPS we added at the very end.
Yeah, I mean, I want to point this out, but Safari is banging out 60 on the update,
and Firefox is slower,
and Chrome is faster.
Yeah, so I don't know if you caught the comment that our viewer and former colleague Eric had left in the repo, but he mentioned...
Oh, he made a comment on the repo?
Yeah,
I love it.
He mentioned that the way that set interval and set timeout work in Firefox, Chrome, and Safari are all different.
That seems very clear right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Delightful.
And yeah, basically it also has to do with the fact that like we are sending a non-integer value to that timeout or set interval.
Oh, interesting. Well, okay, because we're doing 1,000 times 1 over 60.
Yeah. So if anything, it should be fast. So Chrome is actually respecting that. It's rounding it down, and so that's why it's slightly faster than 60 FPS.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell Safari is doing. Maybe it's actually consuming the floating point number, right?
I think Safari is scheduling at 16.66 milliseconds
yeah.
at a time because it's It's really accurate.
And I think what's happening with Firefox is that Firefox does no is context free. So if your last frame was late, it doesn't try to schedule the next frame earlier. But I think that Chrome attempts to do that compensation, so you get a stable aggregate FPS, like the way that we're
Interesting.
getting right now.
Fascinating. Okay. Huh.
But whatever. Sucks to be a Firefox user like myself. Just got to get those FPS, man. Just you got to have them.
Why can't I have 60 frames per second is what I want to know. Maybe it's because I'm at 30 hertz.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So it is basically V-synced, synchronizing with the vertical blanking of your monitor.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'll buy it. Yeah, I'm on I'm mirrored to this big display, so I could have a 16:9 stream to you.
Nice. Yeah.
But it looks like this is what's forcing the 30 hertz, which is happening here. Okay, sure.
All right. You know what? 30 FPS should be good enough for everybody. Movies are 24.
If only we could slow it down to 24, wouldn't that be great? Cool. I'm really glad we saw all three browsers together. That's weird. We're going to go with perfect, delightful Safari.
Yeah.
Which got updated today. There's a brand new version that is really excited to block trackers.
Oh, fantastic.
It even blocked one on our own website. Wait, what the fuck?
What are we doing?
Amazon, Facebook, IMR Worldwide, and Scorecard Research.
Gosh, that's probably all Twitch, right?
I bet it's the Twitch embed, yeah.
Thanks, Twitch.
So, yeah. But you can switch to Safari and it won't do it.
Well, you know what? Twitch is bringing this stream to the world.
Thanks, Twitch.
Perhaps the most important stream of the current era. Gratis to everybody in the world. So
there you go.
We can suffer a little bit of a privacy violation as a result.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right.
Facebook is weird, though.
Yeah, so we've optimized our frame rates. So I think now we begin the long, hard road of reconstructing all of our functionality.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We want to get a second take in there, maybe? Second client? That's another thing we could try to do.
We've got a second client in there, so we should simulate it. Yeah.
Okay. And it's running.
It's running. So, all right. I have a thought, which is that we actually need to give tank ownership to clients, and that probably
that's a good thing to work on. I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah, because I want to have a second tank, but it makes no sense right now. So let's do that.
Do we need to simulate like a protocol between client and server? Like a client, let's say, I'm just gonna like throw you a straw man construction here. You shoot it down and modify it. Let's say the client generates a GUID on their side, randomly generated, so basically everybody's unique. Client says, this is my GUID. Hey, server, here's my GUID. And then the server associates the GUID with a particular tank.
I like it.
And then when all of that is negotiated between all the clients, then the game starts. And then each client, its player update input handling system knows which tank to update. Now here's the problem, is that the tank doesn't have a property. I guess the tanks can all have, maybe the tank state can have a client GUID on it, something like that. Or maybe we have a player component on all of them and that state gets synchronized over.
Yeah, because one thing that's interesting too is that like the clients, if I was going to put like our player names above our tanks, I would want to know which client is running which to some degree. So I feel like we have to synchronize, if not the GUIDs, like some sort of friendly string back to every client as well.
So here's the problem. One problem that we have is we have no common authoritative way of identifying entities on different clients. And right now, everybody kind of creates their own entity. The entity IDs aren't synchronized at all, right? They're all just like randomly generated when you create.
That's right. Right, because our setup is actually we're going for the fully predictable simulation where everyone just instantiates the same thing and runs the same inputs.
Exactly.
Okay, that is a little trickier.
Now, the entity IDs could be numeric, starting from the beginning, and then that, just could be like the old auto incrementing integer, and if it's deterministic, that still should be fine. Even if you like predict the creation of an entity, we do a thing where we wind back and play it again, so it's like everything should be fine. And even if we have entity to entity references, those references should just get fixed as we like do the reconciliation, right?
If we play back the events in the order that the input is received, which I think we might have randomized.
Oh yes,
because we didn't want to prioritize a particular. Maybe this is a system. Yeah, we didn't want to prioritize a particular message over another, right? Did we randomize that? I don't even remember.
No, well, we don't have multiple clients. That's actually a really good question. So right now the input, it's going to be random, right? Because I think what's happening right now is the player input system is just like pushing onto the end of a buffer. Is that right?
Yeah.
And we don't know which of our client simulation loops it's going to get there first, right?
Correct. Great. We send client message, and this goes nowhere.
What if we just sorted the client messages by the GUIDs, and it would be random and a fixed ordering over the course of the entire game? Right. So player one always goes first.
Right.
That's bad for tennis and it's bad for board games, but I think it's fine for a 60 FPS video game.
I agree. So instead of our GUIDs in this case are integer increasing numbers.
I think for the entities, yes, but when I say GUID, I meant the I should be very specific about what I mean. Like I'm talking about the client ID is randomly generated.
I see. Yeah, totally. Okay, so we hand an ID to the server, and it hands us back the entity we control, which is numerically, it's a player, but every client generates the same number. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have to figure out how to generate multiple tanks, because we don't have that in the map editor yet. They could just start on the same place right now, maybe.
We could put multiple tanks in the map editor.
Okay.
I mean, we could put a second tank in here.
What does it mean if there's not a second player? It'll just sit there without we'll just let it sit there, right? We'll just let it sit there with no input system updating it, right?
Exactly. I was thinking that another option would be like a set of spawn points that's an array of coordinates.
Yeah.
And it just hands them out. And in fact, we don't put the player on the map.
That is a really good idea. Although I think that's a sophisticated enough idea that maybe we can do that after we have two tanks moving around. Does that sound okay?
Sounds reasonable to me. Yeah. I was just like, 2 is going to be something, and then 8 is going to be something, or however many tanks are in this system.
Maybe that's the next thing we can do because I think the order of operations from here, whether we finish at this stream or continue on, is like, let's get two tanks appearing. Let's have them assigned to different client GUIDs, and then let's also record some keyboard input and put it in a loop so that we can basically have that read out from the simulated client loop, and so we basically can see two tanks moving around at the same time. Right?
I love it. Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Making an input recording system as a kind of like side distraction is also going to be really fun, because that's a very useful tool for debugging.
And I like how, oh yeah, you mean in terms of debugging the other players and our own? Yeah, that'll be
or
cool.
debugging the whole game, really, right? If we have a bug and we need to like figure out exactly how to solve a particular issue, you can just record input frame by frame and play it back.
That's neat. Heck yeah. Cool. All right, so let's see. We've got we've got our main. We have server, two clients. Do we register the client with the server? We do. We connect. Okay, so this is starting to look familiar. Now we push ourselves onto an array of clients, but in fact, should we be pushing ourselves with like we should be registering like with our own ID. What was your suggestion?
Yes. Yeah, so this is actually a little bit tricky, right? And we want to, is this an area where, like, let's say client A connects to the server, and then the server just says, okay, you go first. You are in player order 1. And then that actually might be all we need. Because what can happen at that point is that each client knows, like if we're adding a second player tank onto the map, basically when each client initializes the map, they can say, I'm going to attach the player input system or a player input component to just the player entity that I observe as being equal to the number that the server gave back to me. So the server gives the first client that connects the number 1, and when it initializes the map, it sees the first tank and says, okay, that's the one that I'm going to attach the player input component to. And then the second client, when it initializes the map, it will have been assigned the number 2 by the server, and it will skip over the first tank that it initializes and then goes to the second one. How does that feel?
I think that sounds good.
Okay.
Do you think we need to teach the clients about the other clients? Like, should we be able to say like, you're tank 1 and someone else is controlling tank 2?
I think where it matters, we do. And I think where it matters is how is the input getting us, like, because essentially there is going to be input events that get broadcast from the server back to the clients. And basically the server needs to say, this input event goes to player 1 and this input event goes to player.
Yep. Okay, so every client can actually build the list of players just by looking at tanks.
Exactly.
It grabs the number of players in order, and if it sees input event for player 2, it applies it to that. If it sees it for player 1, yeah, okay.
So actually, it's occurring to me that we don't need to do this GUID thing. Like the client doesn't need to generate any numbers at all. It's basically just, the first client that connects gets tank 1. The second client that connects gets tanks 2, and each client knows that, right?
Yeah. So I think our client connects. Our server needs to have a register method though, because our server needs to keep track of what order the clients are connected in, so it can tell the client which player it is, right? Because client number 2 will never know it's client number 2.
How did the clients do the connection right now?
They don't. They just push themselves onto the server clients array, which I guess we could read, but like, wait, what does push return? Is it the index? There's your answer. Returns the new length of the array. Cool. That actually is an API.
Yeah. Because this is computers in the modern day, I might say that we should do push -1, so your player index is 0. I think the player should be 0 indexed.
Okay.
Does that seem outlandish?
It does not.
Okay.
No.
Although when we print, we probably want to print player 1, player 2.
I was gonna say players are 1 indexed, right? Yeah.
Okay, let's go for it, and we'll see. This will bias us towards the presentation side of things, because internally we might have arrays that are like 4 players, and this is a point of minutia. We can decide and change it very easily if we decide that like 0 indexing is bad.
Let's start with 0 indexing, because yeah, you're right. Everything else will be asking us to conform to this.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's see. We've got player index, and really we just need to add this as a client property.
Yeah. I think I just kind of convinced myself that 1 indexing is actually better, right? You know how there's that whole like religious conversation about which is better.
Hmm.
And zero indexing at this point is one. Uh, and zero indexing better matches the memory layout if you're like writing C or whatever, because it's like your first element is 0 bytes away from the beginning of the pointer.
Hmm.
But if you ever have to print something for human consumption, even debug printing, it's helpful to print in ordinal numbers that people understand.
Right, because when we print out player ID 1 and it's actually player 2, like
We're going to be really
we're
confused. Yeah.
we're gonna be confused.
And so you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And therefore, it almost from a human perspective makes sense to let the machine conform to what humans understand. Um, although
I like it.
that actually the argument I think I was making was more about language design than it is about our system, because we're going to be screwed either way, because like we may have to index into arrays and then we have to remember to subtract one off the number if it's not zero indexed, you know what I mean?
I do prefer that though to when we try to look at our input buffer and we see player ID, like
Yeah, that's totally fine.
I think we're gonna appreciate
Yeah,
the ones and the twos.
I'm into it.
It's gonna hurt no matter what. You're
Yeah.
totally correct. So I mean, I, this could also be something like we could just assign like player 1 as our string here and drop numbers completely.
Well, I
And
think the ordering helps because, for example, it's going to be like the order in which you encounter player objects when you initialize. That's how you know which of those entities you're going to be like attaching yourself to.
yeah, but like that's sortable. It's annoying, but it's sortable.
It's sortable, but you have to communicate the other player IDs to other people. Like you have to communicate, like when the second client connects, you have to communicate that ID to the first client, which we may end up having to do in the first place, right? So it may not be that.
We'll see. Yeah. We're going to have like player names in here eventually too, which will help out a bunch.
Yeah.
But okay, so this is great. Let's put another tank in the map.
Okay.
That will probably make us happy. Good God.
I think it's player.
Yeah.
Like another one in the null right after that.
I'm gonna put it in a weird spot. I think
Okay.
it's pretty. Oh God, this might not actually be close at all. Save without formatting. Close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Okay, so it's weird that already I'm only moving one object.
Well, I think the player input system does
Scraps the first
something.
tank.
Yeah, I think it goes to the first tank.
Not the player input, the tank mover.
The tank.
Which goes to the entity manager for get player and get player. Here we go. This is actually a great place to do this. Because what we want to do is we want to select where there's a player. Is that correct? Do we have select? No, filter.
What if we did this by component and we attach the component, like when we initialize? Well, first of all, what does the player component do in the first place? Is it just a flag?
I think it is just a flag. Yep, it's just a bool. Oh, so wait, so...
Yeah, okay. So I think the find still makes sense. It's when...
Part of our setup, yeah.
We should not set that to true if...
That's correct.
If the player object doesn't match the order in which we're supposed to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever order number the server gave back to us, we need to respect that when we initialize this. So yeah, initmap needs to say like what is the player index? Yeah,
correct.
Like local player index. Yeah.
Except in the case of the server, which is going to run the same simulation where every player is player. We can't take player away from that. Right?
That is a...
we need to be able to index into both players to apply their inputs.
Does the server need to know about the player flag at all?
The tank mover does. Well, the tank mover needs to know about the tanks, and it needs to know which inputs go to the tanks.
So I think we need to separate the semantics of player flag into tank and player.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting too, because
or tank mover is more like input controllable component, and the input could either come from a local. It's all just things that are updatable by these input messages, right?
Yeah. And actually, wait, let's go to shouldn't have done that. I want to see the init map again.
Yeah.
Because our entity creation, is it make? Where are we assigning our IDs that are actually GUIDs? Because make default entity. This needs a change.
Does it?
If we want integer incrementing IDs. Maybe not. Maybe
Right,
we just...
right. I don't know if we need like we've talked about a lot of ideas, and I think the idea that each client knows which of the entities the player input system applies to is the only information that they need out of the entire interaction is what the essentially the index that the server told it when it connected to the server.
But how do we decide what order the player, like if we have 4 players or 2 players, how do we tell the client you're number 2 if we can't sort them consistently because they've generated like random GUIDs for these objects? I guess they've come in order and we just sort of like...
That is a really good point, right? Because like I think what you're getting at is like, can we take a look at the input messages that are sent from the server back to the client, or from the client to itself, right? Like it's a client message. Yeah.
Well, yeah, right, exactly.
That needs to have. You need to know which entity that's referring to, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we need some, and we were already missing this, which is fine. We've got the frame. Yeah.
What if it's just the? What if it's just the number? What if it's just the index that the clients received, and the server knows them too? So it's just like player index, and then we can the entity object can either have player index as a property, or we can make like a controllable component, and the index is a property of that component. When these client messages are received for a particular frame, you sort them in the order of the player index, and then they'll just get applied in that order. And then when you need to find the entity that corresponds to a particular client message, you just find the entity that's tagged with that particular player index.
Okay, yeah.
And then the player index is deterministic from how you initialize the map, right?
Correct. Yes, because we loop over it in order.
Yeah.
So we could do our own entities here by saying entity ID equals I times dimensions plus J, right? Like we can actually index into our thing. Oh, it's in fact right here. Oh no, that's not a counter. That's actually like indexed by position.
Yeah, you're right. We could also change the ID so that it is just
we could count on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which maybe the entity manager needs to control that, because this is a shared function, but this class knows how many objects it's created.
Yeah, so right, entity last entity ID or something, or next entity ID or something like that.
Just a counter, right? Yeah, next entity.
I think it's next entity because the counter makes it sound. Well, counter could be like entities created historically, because it's not necessarily going to be the same as the amount in the entities or object.
Next entity ID should always be the amount of entities created historically, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like count, because it's but it's a count of things that are destroyed too, which is the weird part. Yeah. Okay. That's great. And then register. Oh, here we go. We get an entity. We say e.id equals this.next entity ID. This dot next entity ID plus plus, and now everything is making its own IDs. Numbers, not, IDs are strings. Okay. So really, we don't.
We can make that a number. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I was going to say this. This is a number, and it's initialized at -1.
Great.
Okay, that's easy.
Although for initializing the -1, we might as well allow it to be null. I feel like it's the same. It's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other kind of situation.
Yeah, okay. I feel like we're about to get a ton of null messages because of this, though.
Okay, that's a totally practical thing. Let's do a -1. That's
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call entity.id a lot. Okay, cool. So now everything's sorted. So now we can sort players by ID at all times on every client and find the index. And I was thinking get player should actually be right. So then it's this, because this is applied every time, but it's just indexed into client. Do we have client? We don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that the entity manager knows. Oh, that actually could be very annoying.
Well, what if when we initialize the player object, we set a component on the player, or we set a flag?
Okay. Yeah.
And then we can preserve this logic. So it's find and like I think it's just the same thing as it was before.
So this is interesting because this still doesn't work because the server has an entity manager, right?
Yeah, but the server never calls get player, right?
It does for the tank mover.
Well, it only does that because we only have one player. Like the tank mover system needs to get updated so that it
so that it moves tanks.
Because the client messages are going to have a player index on them, right? Mm-hmm. If we're going to use that instead of, we're going to use the player index instead of the get player function to know what entity to apply the messages to.
Okay. So really what happens is that in fact, maybe we can actually make get player sort of stop happening. That sounds like it might be the answer, because like, in fact, we always need to be doing indexes into our array of player objects to apply stuff correctly.
Yeah, or at the very least that get player is not a property of the entity manager. It's like, it's a property of whoever knows what the player index is, which could be the entity manager or it could be the game.
It's a property of whoever knows what the player index is. Well, so I think I'm picking up what you're putting down, because tank mover no longer needs to know about player at all. The only thing it needs to know about player is what sends the client message to the server. Because the client's like, this is a message for tank 1, and then everything gets the tank 1 message. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, get player goes away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna help us out. I'm gonna help future me out today.
Okay.
There is no get player.
Yeah. And so the camera doesn't even work now. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's great.
I'm glad we didn't crash.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, that actually cleans up my mental model a lot. Because in fact, like maybe get players is what we want. Because the entity manager just, I think, cannot know about what an individual player is.
Yeah, I think this is where like the client knows its own player index, and so what it does is it iterates over all the entities and finds the one that has.
Yeah, I'm gonna write a quick get players that is basically the same function. I know this is a silly way to do it, but I want to make sure that the old functionality just doesn't even show up.
Okay.
Right. So that is all our players. and then we just grab the one that we know is ours.
And the index is 1 indexed or 0 indexed? I can't remember what we said. Hold on.
It's 1 indexed.
Maybe we should call it player ID if it's... Is that confusing?
Player index, you mean? Yeah.
Index just makes it sound like it's a selector into an array, right? Or even player number if we want to be super...
Yeah, I like player number, and let's... it'd be really nice if we had like a transform that was like player number to entity that just ran this function.
Oh.
That just subtracted one, but then we could at least just like stick it everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's a little silly. Okay, so great. Camera's on the player.
Are we guaranteed that, because what if one of the players dies? Do we just not remove it from the entity manager? I think that seems reasonable.
Fuck, right, because if the list changes shape, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well,
so this might be a reason why I think maybe another way to do this is to tag each entity as they're created with the player index, and so therefore it's a search rather than... Let's not assume that the players are always going to be there permanently. I think Eric just came on the stream, by the way.
Oh man, our greatest fan.
Yeah. Or the other way around, we're his greatest fan, right?
I am definitely
this is
one
the
of
tribute to Eric
fans.
making video game making stream.
Oh no, that makes a lot more sense. If it's a player, we keep a player counter here. Yep, cool. Starts at 1. If entity.player entity, right, and then we need to put a tag on entities. Cool, I love it. Gosh, so should like...
I think player should be a number or null.
But then, because we know the type somewhere in here, right? Oh, it's entity type.
Yeah, or it'll even be a question number, like player question mark number. Because if it's undefined, then you know that's not a player, right?
Yep, exactly.
The same way that if there's no harvest type, you know it's not a harvestable. Yeah.
So then this is actually if the entity type is... And what are our entity types? Take me to types. Oh, come on, man. Come on, TypeScript.
Oh man, player. Type.player, yeah.
Type.player.
I think it's just like entities.type.player, something like that.
See if I can get, oh no. entities.types.type.player. Man. Come on, TypeScript. What is it? This is exported from types. Type dot player. Found the right type.
Oh, there you go.
That is extremely annoying. And then it's not player, it's player. Entity dot player equals player counter plus plus.
Yeah. Or if you want to be fancy, player counter could start with 0. You could plus it first and then assign it.
Really want to 0 index this. I'm with it.
No, it's just that it's a counter, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
Sick.
So maybe we can rename that property on the entity to be player number. Is that a little bit?
Yeah, because then we'll be grabbing player number with player number.
Yes, exactly. There's a very pleasing symmetry.
It's great. Let's see. Oh, good. It changed everywhere. So make players interesting. We just don't set player number anymore,
Yep.
and that's okay. And that's the only place it was used. Great.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah,
This is actually great because now the player, like that make player function, maybe should become make tank, right?
Yeah, this opens us up to a lovely world of like being able to have other player objects too.
Yes, exactly.
Dig it up. I'm not going to rename that function right now.
Yeah,
but,
don't worry about it.
I see exactly what's happening there.
Yeah, we have a weird tight coupling of players and tanks that's, I suspect of the course of the next couple of streams is going to be a little bit looser.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. So actually, so wait, why do we do that? We got players, but actually we want get player to take the player number and search an object for us.
There you go.
Yeah. Just that player number. Great. So it sort of breaks. Actually, it doesn't. No, it breaks a couple of call signatures. That's okay though. Get player, this dot player number, and we don't have to subtract one. That's a win. We are calling it by the right index.
Yeah.
Cool. Back on the camera. Let's see. Holy shit, Jeff. What happened? What did I do?
That is a very surprising outcome.
Oh no.
I'm actually quite pleased by this. It means like our system is like modular enough that we can literally move like a piece of the wall.
Okay, wait. So tank mover. Oh, it calls get player with nothing. It just found it found the first object with no ID.
Fantastic.
It matched undefined. This function shouldn't work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, tank mover we know needs to get completely, or not completely written, but seriously refactored.
Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna start this a little earlier there.
How in the hell?
Okay, great.
Why did that work? Oh, it's because it's null.
It's undefined, so it searched all the entities. It did a find.
Well, no, because player number to start, it should be undefined. Does undefined equals null in JavaScript?
No, get player was called with nothing, so it was called with undefined.
Okay, so that was just a TypeScript error. I feel like
TypeScript knew it wasn't happy about it either. It's angry.
I feel like we shouldn't do that guard there.
Okay.
And let TypeScript complain about that, right?
All right, the walls are moving again.
Yeah.
Time for Splunky.
Well, Splunky 2 came out. I think we were talking about that.
I really want to play Splunky 2. I hear they made like multiplayer better. Or like it's online now and wasn't before.
Yeah.
Co-op is online? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, Eric is asking, is this the new Baba Is You? Did you play Baba Is You, Dom?
Yes, it was so delightful.
Did you finish it?
No, it's way too hard.
You know, it's funny. I got like, I think 30 puzzles into it. I was like trying to 100% it, and I was doing like every single one.
Yeah,
and then, like,
Baba is not me.
Yeah, I got to that point like 30 levels in, and there was like a succession of like 3 or 4 that I couldn't do. Or I couldn't do within like the space of 15-20 minutes, and I was like, "This game's too hard."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember like having to cross a river, and I was like, "I don't understand what I am anymore, or what is you."
Yeah,
but it's really cool. That guy was doing a live programming stream of Baba Is You, which I thought was really interesting.
He was, and he was holding down the fort with just one person.
Mm-hmm. It was mind-boggling. I was like, how are you thinking about this strange game? But
it's
cool.
Very interesting because if I remember correctly, his whole setup was that I think he was using Game Maker, he was using what was multimedia fusion or something like that?
No way, really?
Yeah. Do you remember Macromedia, like the
Yeah,
company that made Flash?
I worked for Macromedia.
You did. Tell me about that. I didn't hear this story.
Well, my first internship in San Francisco in 2008 was at Adobe working on the Flash team, but
Okay,
it was out of the Macromedia office and it was like right after they acquired them, I think.
that's
So I was like
awesome.
I was in the Macromedia Flash team and we were trying to put Flash on iPhones.
Oh man.
It didn't work.
Like Steve
Never
Jobs
happened.
like personally went up to you, Dominic, and it was like, "You sir do not have a job."
That literally happened. It was the second year the iPhone was out. Like I had a Gen 1 iPhone. The App Store didn't exist at the start of that job and existed that summer when they released it. It was very
Unbelievable.
weird.
So
And we were like, maybe we can put Flash as an app in the App Store. And I was just like, I don't think y'all are gonna make this happen.
so I think there was an advanced version of Flash, right, called Fusion. Is that right?
I don't know if it was Flash or not, but yeah. I remember Macromedia Fusion. It was wild.
And then I'm pretty sure the Baba Is You creator on his stream was using a program called Multimedia Fusion, which I think. All right, yeah.
I mean, I got
Listen
it
to me
now.
speculate about stuff, whereas there's actually like a completely reliable resource keystrokes away. Um, the naming here is very telling to me. I think that it was probably inspired by a Flash-like product.
Yeah. Wow. I was gonna say, I'm curious if I click on this, if we'll find out that this was a successor to. No, it's totally unrelated.
Unbelievable.
Damn. I would have changed my name. Huh.
Maybe it was like we were around first. We're not going to change it.
Yeah. Because this thing was real. I remember it. Ooh, it's so old that Multimedia Fusion has won out.
Oh my gosh. Maybe it wasn't Fusion that I'm thinking of. There was like some fancy version of Flash. Was it? Oh, it was Director probably. I think that's what I was.
Ooh. Wow, it still exists.
Yeah. Well, I think it's still basically Flash, right? I think people liked the whole authoring. Like, if you make an Adult Swim cartoon right now, are you doing it in Flash still?
I bet you're using Director, yeah,
Yeah.
which maybe it's the same thing, except it outputs to HTML5 and they're just like, that's good enough. Oh, poor Flash.
Yeah.
Well, wall is you
Yeah.
is what I've learned.
Yeah. So I guess maybe Baba as you came out of accidents in entity component systems.
I love it, and it definitely it's sort of like I can see how the entire thing comes together if you're like, we just move whatever's got a player ID on it. So like,
Yeah.
is it all the walls? I guess it is.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What a clever system.
So we have gone from making a game about tanks to making a game about a gigantic 128 pixel font FPS indicator to now making a game about a wall moving around.
It checks out. You got to smash walls, and this wall
Yeah,
is
that
just
is the
not a fan.
trajectory that we are on right now in true 2020 style.
Look, man, 2020 has been a ride.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, shit. I don't even know what happened this week, but like I know we're having an election soon. I somehow in like 40 days we're gonna elect some people.
I don't want to talk about
Yep.
it.
I was gonna say, are you volunteering to be a poll worker? Because you should.
I did not, uh, but I'll think about it.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that particular thing. I want to hear more about what other people are doing.
Same. Okay, but no politics on the stream, or none of those politics.
No, I'm happy to talk about politics on the stream.
Oh.
I'm just depressed by this particular one,
Fair.
which is funny
Right.
because I should be more depressed about the condition of workers around the world. But that's the shit I've been swimming in for such a long time that like I'm used to it. Whereas the sort of veering headlong into the cliff of fascism is like a very real possibility in mere months, mere
You know,
weeks.
it felt so real. It got me to join DSA 4 years ago, but like this has been a real new smack in the face level of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
fuck. Anyway, let's smash walls. Sorry. No depressing on stream. Maybe that'll be the rule. Only
Oh,
happy
well,
smashy
maybe we'll get
politics.
there. I think we're
We'll
just
get
being
there.
very disciplined about it right now.
Uh, heck yeah. Okay, so let's see. I can move the wall. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's because the tank mover moves whatever it feels like.
I think what needs to happen, even before we update the tank movers, the client message needs to get updated with the player index.
Because, right, this is actually that. And let's change this to player number. By the way, you really got me hooked on rename symbol. I don't know what I was doing this whole time.
Oh yeah, that's great.
What a fool I was.
That's old school. It's Visual Studio C++. I bet people who know Java are watching this and are just like, you savages. Right.
I wouldn't blame them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that works.
Nice.
That is nice. Great. We've got movement by player, I guess.
We do indeed. Now let's see if we can't get both tanks moving.
So we should. What are we doing here? We want the second client to be. We want the simulated client to be dropping some fake input into this buffer.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe.
I think what we can do is we can say like we divide the frame number by 1,000, and if it's odd, we're just pressing A, and if it's even, we're pressing D, something like that, because that should basically make them go back and forth or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Or we can literally record a buffer. Like we could do that as well.
Let's start with that. I think that'll be a very pleasant start.
Yeah.
But the next question is we need to, in the simulated client, be able to send a message. And it's interesting because this is actually like the player input update fills this buffer and then we send it. So should we make a system for simulated input, or should we consider like, I guess we could actually we could just write to the client message buffer from outside the client. We'll call this.
The other thing we could do is make a fake.
Whoa.
What is the keyboard is, we have keyboard.ts, right?
Yep.
Well,
dude, you just blew my mind.
And this is like a real keyboard, but the interface of a keyboard is that it has down keys, it has up keys, and it has an update function, right?
Holy shit.
It doesn't even need to have an update function. I think the interface of a key, like like an I keyboard, is just down keys and up keys, right?
Oh, I like this a lot. Okay, let's do. I'm gonna stick all this in one file for now, but I think
that's fine.
It'll be really clear where we want to extract stuff later.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Just these two. Is it extents? Is it implements?
Implements.
Beautiful.
And then the client has an I keyboard rather than a keyboard. Although the client does call update on it.
Let's give it an update. It'll just be a no op, yeah.
Maybe the update shouldn't be in the client then.
The update shouldn't be in the client. Why not?
Because not all clients have. Well, let's make update part of the interface then.
Yeah, it's because we want to make sure we are clearing it on a frame basis. So.
Yeah, and I think that even the simulated keyboard is going to want this because we're going to want to update the contents of down keys and up keys over time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like we'll run a frame counter that update increments in the simulated keyboard. I like this a lot. That's very, very clever. Okay.
And maybe we pass in a set. Like, what does the constructor actually look like? Like, we would pass in some buffer, right? We just send it stuff over time, something like that.
It doesn't even have. Right. I guess we could hand it anything in the constructor because we didn't define that. Delightful. I was just gonna write out a really quick version of the back and forth function.
Okay, that's fine. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just get that, and this frame count equals 0, and then I don't know, frame count plus this. Oops. And then really it's this down keys. What are we using up keys for? Are we using that at all? Probably not, huh?
What do we use up keys for?
I don't think we do. I mean, not yet, but I totally.
I think maybe when we were shooting with the space bar.
It was our start the game with the space bar. Start the game with the space bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these are for like single key presses, right?
Yep, which totally makes sense. Great, so all we're ever going to be doing then is setting down keys, and we never have to worry about the up direction, which is great. Okay. Oh crap, I forgot the event.which is such an annoying one.
If we go into the player input system, I think we have written down what all those things are.
I've got a key map. Great. Should this come from the keyboard?
No, I don't really know.
No, it shouldn't.
I know what you mean. It could be a general place, yeah.
Maybe we'll stick this somewhere. You know what? We export the cursor node. I'm just going to export the key map.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that weird?
Nope.
Yeah, I think that's okay. We should consume DOM events using it. You still feel is that to do still true?
I think we can probably get rid of it. The problem it's trying to solve is very abstract, and the order of priority doesn't merit. Like, it's such a low priority thing that it doesn't merit like a huge comment at the top.
Yeah. Okay.
The idea is that like if we get key down and key ups within the same frame.
Oh. No, I'm maybe inclined to keep that. Okay. That seems, yeah. So let's see, frame count. We have 1,000 mod 0 or mod 2 equals. For odd, we're going key map dot move left or key map dot move right. It's a set.
We could do new set. Can we do new set with a passing in an array in the constructor? Is that?
It takes iterables. Yeah, totally.
Oh, nice.
And sets are great. I wish I knew about these earlier.
Yeah,
it's this stuff right now. That's valid. Great. So it's just going to move. What did I say? Left and right for a whole second, and then so in main we actually assign.
Or it'll be 1,000 frames. So 1,000.
Oh, right. Oh, 16 seconds then, right?
Okay, so that's maybe too much.
Yeah. Well, dot keyboard
It's probably
equals.
more like 2 seconds, right? So maybe 120 frames.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need to do a math.floor on that?
That seems reasonable. Now I would have expected this to move.
Uh,
Let's see. I assigned the.
it's not going to move because our tank mover system doesn't work yet.
Um. It's
Oh, I see what
from
you're
the
saying.
message.
Yeah.
I think that should have. I think that should have worked. But let's see. So.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't work because the tank mover on client 1 is only applying the messages from. This needs to be a loop over all of the client messages.
Oh, this is right. This is a find. We're doing one because we want the current frame of move player messages.
Yes, and we want to sort them by player number as well.
Does that matter anymore? Because we've got.
It does matter because we don't know what order those are going to appear.
Cool.
And if you want it to be deterministic, all of these changes, like from line 24 to 40, line 40, I think they need to be in order.
That makes sense.
Or the server could sort them, but we need to make sure that
Yeah, I don't want to have to trust that. Cool. That is what was missing. Okay. Interesting. And we're playing this back too in the sync server state. We actually call the tank mover with frame message inputs.
How are we pushing the client messages onto the server's buffer right now?
At the end of client update, no. Oh, sorry. It's player input that is sending to the. Yeah.
And then can we go into that send client message function? Can't quite remember how it was implemented. Yeah, it's pushes. It should just be adding it onto the end of a list, right?
Yeah. Right. And then the server should be collating. Yeah, the server should be handing us back a buffer with 2 messages in it every time. Let's make sure the server isn't doing a find as well. Nope, filtering on frame. And then we push a server message for the frame. Interesting. Well, maybe.
How are the client messages going back to the clients? Oh, right there, 132, 134. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's right in front of my face.
I was going to say console.log. At the very least, I want to see if we're getting
multiple.
Yeah, we should start seeing 2. Oh, Safari, come on. You moved all the buttons around. What the hell?
Well, we're probably only going to see 1 because we can't push buttons while we're looking at the log, right? Unless we...
Fair point.
But we should see 1 for player 2, right?
And I do.
Yeah.
Direction is weird. Is that a reasonable direction?
That is a little bit strange, I will confess.
Is that the amount it's moving on the x-axis, though? That could be correct. That is like the absolute amount it's trying to move, yeah.
Oh, direction? I wish I remembered. No, directions should be like. Oh, you're right. It is like a.
Yeah.
As an angle. So
Mhm.
it's a radiance.
Oh, I see. Right. We're moving negative pi over 2. Okay, sure. So so I see the update for player 2, and player 2 is just sitting here. Let's look in the tank mover. Let's put some stuff out in here and see what we got.
Okay.
That feels like a miss. Um,
I guess we could do it at on line 25 maybe, because then we would see if we ever get to player 2. And we need to make sure
right.
we know which client we're in. Because this is going to
Mm.
run, we're going to hit this 3 times, right? We're going to hit it once for the server, and once for each client.
Ay, ay, ay. That's true. And there. So interestingly, I only see it twice, but it should be running. Um, mm, yeah, it should be 3 times. What the fuck? Are we? Hang on. Did I like turn off the simulated client? No.
Now, the simulated client is running because that's how we're even seeing this, right?
Yeah. Oh, you know what's weird? This number is going positive to negative. So the keyboard,
Is working.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's doing the keyboard thing.
Yeah.
Um, and I got here actually. So it found a player. Oh, and I got to turn off preserve log. Holy shit! Safari got bad. Ugh. Well, I've learned to never update your dev tools between streams. Oh, come on.
It's all right.
No, it's fine. Maybe it's time for someone to load up Chrome. But it looks like it's finding the entity and trying to move it and not succeeding, which is really interesting.
I mean, I think what we want to make sure is that it's fine. Like this is happening on the local client as opposed to the simulated client.
Right. Okay. How? Because we really don't know what we're in at this point.
Sadly, we don't, but we could stick this console log.
I guess we can go into client. Let's see what's happening here. And I feel like sync server
we just
state.
pass the client ID.
We could just pass the whole client object in here if we really want to.
Yeah,
right now.
we could. We definitely could.
All right, let's just do it.
I don't think we should keep it that way, but like we could do it.
No, but at this very moment, and these are. Oh, did I put it in sim state? Okay, client is a client, and it's optional. Client no. So that's a great start. Console.log simstate.client. So interestingly, I only see player 2. Have we been player 2 the whole time? Oh wow, the message buffer is just disgusting too. What is happening? There should not be.
Do we never clear the buffer?
We think we do. Huh. But we definitely are not. That's odd.
The clearing of the message buffer should be happening in server, right? The server will.
The client should clear its message buffer in sync server state, right?
Well, what I think is happening is the server is just clobbering it, right?
server is collaborated, but it's only pushing, and we reassign our own. Wait, are we?
Yeah.
No, this is a property. We could reassign it. We're reassigning our own filtered list. Huh.
What I mean is I think if you scroll down,
Yeah.
um, actually, I think what I'm talking about is server update. Can you go to server.ts?
Yeah, totally.
So client.server messages, does that ever get cleared out? I guess that's what we were talking about in sync server.
It does, yeah. It gets cleared out right here, or it should. We're testing everything less than the server snapshot frame. Do we never update the server snapshot frame? I feel like we do that here. Are we never processing server messages? That would be wild.
Well,
or not. How does this work?
That is pretty unexpected.
Damn it. I hate, it's because we, okay, I can kind of see what's happening, because we never process any server messages. We are in pure prediction. We're predicting our own movements perfectly, and no one else's. No, what the fuck?
So okay, so maybe just the server communication is not working correctly, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. I want to see what the server messages are before we server messages. I don't know. Let's look at 0, so it actually logs a real object. And there start being inputs on frame 2 from the other player. And then I think right here, if we do this, we're probably immediately, I assume this is just immediately nothing. Yeah, okay, so filter is to filter.
Okay.
Why is that? We filter everything where the frame we've received is less than the snapshot frame.
Yeah. And the snapshot is like what we authoritatively know, what we know to be the authoritative truth at some point in the past, right?
Yeah. And it's -1, so nothing should be less than it right now. It's always -1. That frame.
I think our filter logic is just inverse, because filter, the predicate should keep, if the predicate is true, we keep it, right?
Oh, so we want everything. Yep.
We keep everything that is greater than
the snapshot frame.
Not even equals. It should be greater fully, like strictly greater.
Excellent. Okay, we've extremely broken the game, so we're doing good. It's happening. Okay. Well,
we just got a message from Surly Dev, who is our friend from, I believe, the GitHub repo that has all the programming streams. He says, "Hey guys, I suggested your channel in another stream for a raid, but they couldn't because you disabled raids? ? I do not even know what a raid is on Twitch. Do you know what that is, Tom?
Hang on. I'm gonna log into Twitch and turn on raids is what's gonna happen.
All right.
What? I would really like to be raided on Twitch.
What does a raid mean? Does that mean that like a bunch of people come in and like?
It's like a channel viewership just pops over. But let's see. Hang on. So let's see. Raid. Channel settings. Ah. Oh yeah. Come on in. What? Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Eric says, when one streamer ends their stream, all the viewers move to your stream. Early Dev says, raids are the way of taking your viewers to another stream when you are finished to continue the stream love. Well, thank you very much,
Whoa.
Surly Dev. I really
Sorry,
appreciate that.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you.
Um,
Huh.
so I wonder, based on that description, I wonder if we missed the window today. But we'll see.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like the gates are now open
Yeah.
to potential future raiding parties.
Yeah.
That's delightful. We should go raid another stream after this.
Yeah.
We'll give them our viewers.
That'd be great. We'll send them to Surly Dev stream. Although I suspect that they have already gone offline. Let's just pass it back and forth.
That's really cool. That just makes me super happy.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Sweet.
say they're not streaming.
Well, thanks for the shout out. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Very cool. Very thoughtful.
Yeah. It's all right. We're 30 something streams in, so we're here to stay. There will be more opportunities. All right.
So we broke
What's
something.
our server doing? I'm worried it never worked.
Yeah, I think this is actually confirmation that we weren't doing reconciliation at all, right? We were in the land of pure prediction.
Unfortunately so.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we're not early out.
The land of pure prediction sounds like some extremely twee millennial young adult novel concept.
I think you just came up with the stream title for today for sure.
The land of pure prediction. All right, there we go.
Yeah, but also maybe like a, what is that? What kind of band is Fish? Not Jock Rock.
They're a jam band.
Jam band. It's like a jam band album name with like a really like psychedelic cover.
Yeah.
The land of pure prediction, man.
I think my immediate thought, my immediate emotional reaction when I hear about Fish is like slightly negative, and I've never listened to like a minute of Fish.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just because like we spent so long making fun of like Dave Matthews Band and jam bands, for no other reason, because that was just hipster culture, right? That was it.
I like Dave Matthews Band. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're you're probably
I'm a hipster.
the nth person in the last N weeks to have mentioned that same exact quote. So I think it's basically kind of coming out of the woodwork now that it's like now cool to listen to Dave Matthews again.
It was never not cool. I mean, it's not like I don't like follow him on tour, but like I saw Dave Matthews play once. It was great.
Very, very excellent musicians.
They played Jazz Fest a lot is what it was.
Yeah.
For some reason, they were regulars at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, though they were neither jazz nor heritage.
Did you watch the movie Lady Bird?
No, I really want to see that.
You should see Lady Bird.
Yeah.
It is topical for members of our rough age group.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because it's about coming of age in either the late 90s or like very early 2000s. And
nice.
There's a point where she's listening to Dave Matthews and she had quasi joined up with the Mean Girls, like it's just like that classic high school like thing of like I'm gonna like reject my nerdy friend who's my true friend to go hang out with the purported cool people. But when I do that, I'm gonna ride shotgun with them, and when Dave Matthews Band comes on the radio, I'm gonna pretend not to like it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's a movie for you, Dom.
I'm into it. Jeff, I found our problem.
Tell me about our problem.
In every message, we take the next frame entities, we put nothing in them. We call that our server snapshot, and then we just clone it into our entity manager. So that's where all our walls went.
Oh, that seems like a problem.
Yeah, it's like maybe we shouldn't do that, but it's okay. We're doing okay.
Oh yeah, because we're not copying the next frame entities out of. Yeah, this is bad. I think const next frame entities needs to be outside of that loop. Is that basically what?
No, I think actually I have a lot of questions, to be honest. Yeah, it needs to be out of this loop, and it needs to be initialized. Yeah, server snapshot dot entities, and it needs to be a deep clone of it, right?
Yep.
and even deeper is that this needs to be initialized with,
Were we high when we wrote this?
dude. As I recall, our last stream was perhaps one of our most confusing ones ever because we were both just like, the server does what?
And I feel like actually this code is from at least 1.5 streams ago, because I think even the last one, it was just, you know what, it was so long ago, like I can't even remember what happened 3 weeks ago. I remember that like all of
Yeah.
California was on fire and I inhaled a lot of smoke, not all of which was due to the wildfire.
All of that did.
We were listening to Dr. Dre. It just felt, you know. At any rate.
I love it. That's a great weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, because this is where the clone should happen, right? We should clone from the last server snap.
Process the server message, copy it to our entities, and then we apply our prediction.
Really, that
So
says 1.5 streams ago, so you're maintaining legacy code then. That's absolutely right. It's
ouch.
legacy as of like 20 minutes ago. We're not particularly good at what we do here.
Hey, careful, our YouTube trailer says we are pros.
Just not at video games.
Not at video games. I really love the experience of like pulling up code and being like, who wrote this? What the hell? And I get blame it.
Yeah.
And it's me. It's always me. It's never like another team member. It's always like, man, you did that to yourself.
There's a book that I like a lot, more in concept than in execution, but anyways, I would recommend it. It is called Working with Legacy Code. And that it was written in 2003, never updated, so I think it's still first edition, but still like highly recommended by everybody, and you can only find used copies of it. It's very strange. Michael Feathers, yes, Surly Dev reminds me, Michael Feathers. And their definition, Michael Feathers' definition of legacy code is very succinct and powerful. It has nothing to do with age or code quality. It is any code that does not have a test. So there's no confirmation against regression.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, that's our software engineering part of the stream. Let's get back to breaking shit.
My whole job is working on a well-tested legacy code base, and today I disagree with Michael Feathers, but
is it well-tested?
It's extremely well-tested. That's the weirdest part.
Yeah.
But it's the most well-tested like Redux mess I've ever seen.
Oh, well, the problem with tests, so that line, like, is like step one is like, you need to encourage people to write tests.
Oh, I like it. I think it's a very correct line.
But then you get into the realm of like tests being a reflection of the code that it's under test, you know, like the quality is kind of reflected there. And so then you get in the realm of where tests are just technical debt at a certain point, or they're flaky or whatever. And yeah. So
yep.
There's like the end levels of hell. First level is no tests. Second level is that you have tests. They're impossible.
I love it. So I found this was our first problem. We just never put the entities in the server.
Okay.
And now we have. And now the game is really slow. Yes.
I think we're deep cloning twice.
Three times.
Okay.
So let's go through that.
Yep.
Is it so? Our next frame entities are can we avoid cloning these? We can, because we're about to clone them out of here. So these we mutate finally.
That's fine to mutate. I agree.
Yeah. Our frame rate doubled.
Yes. And then input reconciliation also does not need to clone. No, we do need to clone right here, because the server snapshot is authoritative. And then that is the last frame for which we have full authoritative input from the server. And then anything from line 42 to 48 is technically predicted ahead of the server, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's in the client, from the client's frame of reference, it includes stuff in the path.
So I feel like we encountered this a stream or two ago where we actually had like every deep clone was a critical problem.
Yeah. But is it the deep clone or is it garbage collection? Because we had a deep clone in here prior to this, right? So
but it was deep cloning nothing.
oh, so that's why that's how we fixed the performance problems. Is that we maybe that was what happened last stream? Is we fixed
I
the
think
performance
so.
problems by just like not running the code.
It
Amazing.
seems that way.
Yeah.
So what if we hmm, crap. The fact that this is all kind of by reference JavaScript stuff is really messing this
The
up.
deep clone should be trivial. It should be like, let's copy 8 kilobytes into another 8 kilobyte buffer. That's basically what it should be here. But because exactly we're in JavaScript, this is hardly income. It's also a huge ass map, right?
Yeah, this thing is more complicated than it needs to be. So if I don't deep clone, moves fast, I assume I'm just like munging a ton of state.
Yeah. And why isn't our second client moving? That the other tank should be moving, right?
It's a excellent question. Yeah.
I'd say for the purposes of this stream, we should try to get that second tank moving, and then we can do another stream on performance.
Do you feel why are we doing deep clone instead of clone? It's a shallow clone.
Because we are going to be mutating stuff that's hanging off the top level of every entity if we don't.
Wait, I got it. Currently, we're not because we're only mutating transform, which is this is deep crap.
It's deep.
Yeah. All right. All right. Why is this so complicated? All right.
Well, I think actually this is an interesting question to research because all the games that do multiplayer do this, right? They do a kind of I have a point in time snapshot of what the game was like a few frames ago, and I want to do stuff to that, and then maybe I want to do that again, And they do that trivially. They do that 145 frames per second if it's a high refresh monitor.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. It's so tough though. If we were to keep a couple frames around, we'd be deep cloning like 5 frames instead of just the one because we'd want to keep a snapshot of each one. It's a real bummer. I feel like maybe perhaps what is an easier thing to apply is a negation of the inputs in some way. Like to unroll the last 20 frames of input on the client is somehow easier than this. And that's weird. Performance-wise, it's a lot harder than this right now.
Is every operation reversible?
If we don't delete entities, if we like mark them as invisible for like maybe 60 frames or 100 frames, we could sort of like keep a zombie buffer. Seems hard. Seems very weird though.
The other thing we could do is every change is logged.
And then you just like write the log backwards.
And then every log entry, we design it such that it can be reversed.
It's got potential, yeah.
I mean, that's probably how like undo redo is implemented.
And I especially like the nice thing is that is less dependent on the size of the game state for performance, right? Like we're not changing every object every time, except in very gnarly cases, in which case like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. I can't even move.
This worked at one point, but I'm skeptical of whether it actually worked.
Me too. This is good. Okay. So this is very interesting, actually. So what's happening is like I get feels like a single frame of impulse to the left, and then it snaps me back. So like I'm holding on the button, and it's always applying. It's like applying my next single frame of left, and then it's like, no, you're coming back to the snapshot.
Right.
Yeah, I've got 8 degrees of motion. Very small.
So it almost seems like, oh, okay. Well, what is the frame differential between client and server right now? I think it's like 20 frames.
I thought so. Yeah.
What did we say? That's probably in main.ts, right?
Totally. 1.
It should snap you back after 20. What?
I've got 20 frames of leeway.
And then does it snap you back? Oh, yeah, it
Yep.
does. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, that feels like it makes some sense, though. I don't think we're applying changes to the snapshot. Oh, of course we're not. Okay, wait a minute. What is happening here?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
There is no next frame entity. There just is no next frame entities. I don't think we do it. Fuck, there is.
Well, I feel like we shouldn't be setting the server snapshot between 33 and 36. It's just confusing. Because that should happen. We should take the snapshot once. That's why it's called a snapshot. And we should take it after we've applied all the server messages, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we should line 22.
I'm just making something to grab this in.
Yes. And then next frame entities is server snapshot of entities. And then line 27, the entity manager should be next frame entities.
But that's not an entity manager. That's a list of entities. Should the server snapshot have an entity manager? Let's just do that. That will actually make us...
Or we can. What does the entity manager really do right now? Does it have anything in it besides like deletion stuff?
Some renderable, some get player is valid for the.
And it also does it does the deletion thing, right?
Yep.
So I think what we do, the server message is like we get one server message per frame, right?
Correct.
So maybe what we can do is make an entity manager whose entity array is assigned to server snapshot entities.
Yep.
And I think we can make it outside of the loop.
I was going to make one per, but this creation should be really easy, right? Because it's just entity manager dot entities equals next frame entities. This is a real throwaway.
Well,
I think we can make it outside.
We don't need to recreate that every frame, though, do we? Yeah, it can just sit outside, and even line 28 can be outside, I think.
Oh, and in fact, probably should.
And then probably what we should be doing after tank mover, systems.tank mover, this isn't going to have 0 effect right now, but I think after line 36, we should call entity manager.update. Because we may be running systems that will cause entities to die as we play back server input. Right?
Yep.
Eventually.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen because we're just moving stuff here. But
I'm kind of hoping that this actually becomes like we call simulate, maybe with an entity manager.
That is exactly right. Right. I think what we're doing. I think what this code kind of obscures right now is that the stuff between line 29 and line 39 are a version of the game update. Right. It's a version of the simulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was kind of feeling it actually the last time we looked at this because 53 to 58 is just the same thing.
Yeah. So
Now,
now, sorry, go ahead.
I was just trying to figure out why DT is even a value here and not just simulation period. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm still locked into 5 frames of prediction and direction before I
Right. So
get
I
snap
think line
back.
48 is wrong.
Hmm.
Uh, entity
Now
manager
what?
entity should be fine now. But I think what we want to do. Wait, why do we even have next frame entities?
I don't know.
I don't think we need that variable. Like, I think basically what happens is like entity manager dot entities on line 26 can just be equal to the server snapshots entities,
Mm-hmm.
and then the server snapshot that line 43 is a deep clone of entity manager dot entities.
It's a why a deep clone of entity manager dot entities? Sorry.
Because, well, I'm talking about line 25 basically. So what we do is like on line 25, we take the last snapshot, that last known good, right? Last known
Which is
authoritative.
which is this?
We play over any recent server frames that we've received since then, which should
Hmm.
be really just one frame every single time, right? Because like currently
Yep.
we're in lockstep.
Hmm.
Um, and then we need to snapshot that, right?
Hmm.
And that would be the deep clone.
Yeah, which is here.
Yeah, but we're snapshotting it the wrong direction. We need to update the snapshot. We don't.
But this should be updating the entities. This should be updating the snapshot.
Oh, I see. I think you're just thinking the reverse of what I'm thinking, which is fine.
Okay. Because I do think that it. And I see this applied twice. I'm still a little concerned that we only see 2 applications instead of 3. Oh no, we're in sync server state. There's only 2 places syncing server state.
Yep. So I think really line 39 could be server.snapshot.frame equals frame message.frame. Like we
Yep,
could take
totally.
line 42 and just like combine those two things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so by that point, the snapshot should be up to date, right? So basically all of lines 23 to 39 are getting the snapshot. It's like refreshing the snapshot, right?
Yep. And it's interesting because it's not refreshing, but it is taking the snapshot. Oh, wait. Nope. Thought I had it. I don't have it.
Yep. It's bringing the snapshot to a more modern state by playing additional server updates over it, right?
Mm-hmm. And I see it applying 2 inputs as well, or trying to.
Mm-hmm. Why would it be snapping back?
Let's we make our deep clone here. These entities should have moved. They should have moved position.
Yes.
So maybe let's get even sillier here and be like const player equals entity manager dot get player 1. Like we're looking for the first player, and let's like I don't know. I'm gonna log out its position. Transform. I'm gonna log it again here, and then I'm gonna log c.entity manager dot get player.
Yep.
What is this upset about? Oh, possibly not. That's fine. You can be possibly not. Let's see. I'll take away this apply and stuff because we saw that.
I think this alert is possibly annoying.
Let's see. Okay, so hang on. Player
Position.
before. I'm gonna say snapshot before. Snapshot after final real entity.
Yep.
And it doesn't help that I can't see any of that. So you were saying dot position. Yes, sorry.
Are we snapping back to the original position, or like what's happening there?
Yeah, we're going back to what was the origin.
Okay, so but
So
it seems like
this is very.
it seems like it's smoothly moving back to the origin though, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is very weird. Because if I thought maybe we just like weren't all.
Well, what's happening is that if I'm like I'm holding down like down, and I've got 5 down inputs queued ahead of the snapshot, and then as
I get it.
steps forward, I have 4, 3, 2, 1. So it actually plays my input backwards, sort of.
Yeah. So it's not playing it backwards, but it's like I think line. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I think what's happening is that the server's not receiving the client messages at all, right? Or it's not relaying them back to the clients at all.
Sure feels that way. So yeah, the player position is not moving in the snapshot.
It's yes. So I think are we always at the origin basically from lines 29? Basically everything ahead of line 51, everything before line 51 is not changing the position at all, right?
Correct.
So the content is empty.
Mm-hmm. Gosh. And then what? Just wanted to see what these were.
That's just the player. Well.
Huh. Sure looks.
That has me puzzled.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and here's a direction that's not positive or negative pi over 2. That was my input. Well, let's go to tag mover. So tag mover gets 2 messages. And I assume type move player is 0 because we really only have 1. Uh-huh. We're getting player from the player number. Oops. And this does not need to do any -1. Where did we have to undo our offset? We're not doing it anymore now. Everything is player index because of get player.
Did I not see that correctly? I thought it could be just because I can't see the full console log, but like I thought that after we apply server messages to the snapshot, the player's position was not changing, right?
It's not changing.
Which means that
Correct.
this input isn't being handled correctly.
Yeah, right?
In the kind of playback of the new server frames, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I 100% agree with that, which is really weird.
Yeah.
It's blowing my mind here, man.
This is going to be a little bit hard to understand because it's going to be happening like 8 times per frame, right? Something like that.
I know. We can do if client, and we can pass a client in just here.
But even then, like we're running it in the client a shit ton of times, right, per frame.
Yeah, that's true. But client specifically is a thing we have to pass into this function to make it work. So
where are we passing it in?
Maybe nowhere. Nowhere might be the current answer, which would be great. Well, somewhere. And it's interesting. Sometimes it receives 2 inputs.
Can we go to sync server state again?
Yeah, totally. We're not passing it in here, so it's not even rendering that.
And we're not passing it down here either. So we're only passing it in
this. Wait a minute. Sorry. This is our prediction. This is a different prediction. We sync server state.
Hey, Dom?
Yeah.
Does this need to even happen here? Where does sync server state happen?
Right here. So sync server state is supposed to get the last server frame, apply it to our snapshot, take our entire message buffer from the past to the present, reapply to the new snapshot. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
and then we get to run the new input.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So in fact, this is not. This is.
So how is it that we're getting 2 input messages? That seems impossible.
No. We have two keyboards.
Weren't you saying you saw 2? Oh, you saw 2 instances of that printing, or did you see 2 messages in the same console log?
I just saw both inputs in the tank mover, but I couldn't necessarily tell which part of the simulation was firing them. But
so you saw the input for player 1 and you saw the player input for player 2.
Exactly.
But they weren't part of the same console log.
They were, because they should both be client processing messages. We should see 2 messages show up in here.
It doesn't make sense.
Here we go. This is it. There's nothing is processed. Bummer.
And that is when. Wait.
So this is I made sure that the only place that passed in the client to tank mover was this snapshot application.
Okay.
And then I logged the messages that it thought were valid, and the answer is 0.
Ever?
Every time.
Okay. Oh, I see. Yes, I'm sorry.
I'll take some of the noise out because
I'm not following very well here.
That's okay, because you're correct. There's like 20 things logged to this shit. So we can see messages showing up, and then the tank process is none of them. Which this is frame message. So frame message. So we have 2 inputs in our frame message. We hand it to the tank mover. Tank mover says none of those are valid.
Yes. Okay, this is great. I think we pinpointed it. This actually conforms to what we're seeing as well.
Yeah. And wait a minute. What the fuck is frame? I think it's this. I think we're filtering them out on just... Is frame the game frame that's 5 frames ahead from the server?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh. Right. This should be frame message.frame, right?
Because
that's what we're applying.
Yes. Oh my god.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Is it gonna turn around? Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically taking 4 seconds for it to turn around, right? Because we're running at half. No, we're running at 1/4 the speed, so it's taking it like 8 seconds.
That seems about right.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Jesus. I love these. This was much more than a 1-line fix, right? Because we kind of had to like tear this function apart a bit. The diff is going to be entertaining to read, or not. We'll just never look at the diff. I don't want to see the diff. We're just going to steam right on ahead.
Never tell me the odds.
Yes.
Whew. Well, I mean, dope.
I mean, we got in there by the skin of our teeth, right? It's 5 minutes before the hour. What happens if we turn off the second client in main?
Great question.
Do we at least get twice our?
Yeah.
It's not quite twice the frame rate.
Let me make sure none of this is running. Yeah. Yeah, our render creeps back up to good, but our update is pretty rough.
Gosh. And then I bet if you turn the profiler on, it's going to be all garbage collection, right?
Is that just start recording? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We probably needed to check memory, but it's cool. Well, no, it might just be if as long as we get a call stack, right?
That looks like just a fairly normal sawtooth.
Does it have Does it tell us
For,
which parts of the like of we need the call stack sampling? Like, does it show us like which functions we spent the most time in?
yeah, that's a great question. I ran it with memory this time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see frames. Holy cow. Do you know where that is?
And what?
Oh, should I be in the memory tab maybe?
No, performance is fine. If you flip open the frames, do you know what that does?
Mm-mm. What? What? Where did frames go? God damn it. There we go.
Oh man. Ooh, this may be visual frames. This is probably
Render,
doing like
request
render
animation
profiling.
frame.
Yeah, I think I care about the CPU specifically. So these are flame graphs for God knows what.
Well, here you go. We're spending 30 milliseconds in clone deep. That is twice our frame time.
Yeah.
So that's that. That actually explains a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a flame graph, but the flame is just 100% clone deep.
I wonder what would happen if we made all of our entities POJOs and that's plain old JavaScript objects.
Oh, I love it.
Or plain old data if you're not in JavaScript land. So just object arrays, numbers, booleans, strings.
Yeah.
And then just like JSON stringified and then JSON deserialized. We use that as the clone.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Now, we can't do it right now because the entities have classes built into them, in particular the renderer.
Yeah, but let's there's no renderer on an entity.
iRenderable, line 44.
Ah, crud.
So that just needs to become like a big render switch, right? Instead, the renderable is just like it's just like like an enum value plus maybe some parameters, and then we switch off of the enum value the same way that we do renderables for primitive shapes. Then we can play with how we do the deep clone. Because the deep clone is killing us right now.
I was going to say, could we do a shallow clone? Because I don't care about propagating renderables across, because it should be a pointer to like get me an object and I pass the state in and you hand me like a turret pointing in the right direction.
So again, I think the problem with the shallow clone is that you need the snapshot to remain constant while the entity manager's entities continues to update. And if you don't deep clone, you run the risk of the entity, like c.entitymanager.entities, when the internals of that updates, you inadvertently modifying the snapshot.
I'm seeing that now.
I mean, yeah.
Cool.
Is it double applying?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Okay. I think I know what we're doing next stream.
Yeah. I would even do it offline, but then again, next stream is Friday, right? I guess this is a good time to talk about the scheduling change. Which, if you're one of our legion of ardent social media followers, this is all old hat for you. For those of you that aren't yet inaugurated into that select group, we are changing our schedule to be fully weekdays, so it's Tuesdays and Fridays. Pandemic Friday is a perfect time to watch a Twitch stream about, I don't know what we're about. What are we about?
We're about making games and taking names, man.
Yeah. I thought we enumerated this before. It was about like cynicism, complaints, leftist politics, and then at the bottom of the list was video games of some.
Yeah, we need to capture that on the website a little bit.
Yeah,
that maybe is what's missing.
There's no hammer and sickle kind of brutalist modern web design. It's a little brutalist. Very square.
A little bit,
yeah.
But I see the problem. Yeah, you're correct.
Just change the highlight the heading colors to red, and
Yep,
then we'll be in business.
I'm into it. I'm just gonna let this stream infinitely stream itself.
Good way to close it out. All right, everyone. Thanks for following along. We will be back on Friday.
Thanks, y'all. See you Friday.